Well, joining me now is the Conservative MP, John Penrose, who's backing Penny Mordaunt. Thank you very much indeed for your time here on Sky News. Now, Penny Mordaunt doesn't have the numbers. Let's just be very frank about it in terms of people who are coming out publicly supporting her. Should she just step aside and make way for those with significant support?
No, I mean, for a couple of reasons. The main one being, as your Westminster correspondent Ali just said, this thing is very fast moving and there's a large number of people who don't want to be public about who they're supporting, but are certainly on the Penny ticket, have flocked to Penny's banner because they like what she's saying, because they think that she is somebody who can not just unite the party, both wings of the party, not just people who like Boris or people who like Rishi, but all of them. And more particularly, someone who actually understands, the problems with the cost of living that we're all facing, and because she's been there, done that, and sort of got the T-shirt. And that, I think, is going to be absolutely essential over the next 18 months because we've got problems with energy, problems with housing costs. Those have to be addressed. And in a normal parliament, they would already have been addressed. But we've had a pandemic and therefore time is tight. The clock is ticking. We've got to get on with these other things that still matter and are now bubbling up and coming to the fore.
I mean, just thinking back to about 3 months or so ago when Boris Johnson left and, of course, the leadership race started, Penny Mordaunt had some momentum behind her, indeed performing much better than Liz Truss around the first round and first stages. But support for her seems to have dwindled somewhat. Some of those who supported her have switched to Rishi Sunak. What's going on there?
Well, there's an awful lot going on behind the scenes, as I think you were saying in your piece just now. And without wanting to sort of bore all your listeners with Westminster bubble kind of goldfish bowl stuff, the thing that's really happened in the last 24 hours is that everybody in the media has been talking about will Boris come back, will he run or not? But actually, quietly and behind the scenes, as you say, Penny had well over 100 people backing her last time. A vast majority of those are definitely still up for it. And the question is, of the people who are still undeclared, and particularly those who backed Liz Truss last time, they are sort of trying to work out where to go and who to back this time. And I think that Penny may very well be is already proving quietly, for people who aren't willing to say so publicly, already proving a very attractive option for them.
You mentioned Liz Truss there, so let's talk a little bit more about standing up in the Commons to represent Liz Truss last week. That received mixed reactions. This is, of course, Penny Mordaunt. Do you think that standing up in the Commons to speak for Liz Truss, do you think that performance she gave boosted her or hindered her?
Well, I'm interested. Do you think it was mixed reactions? Certainly the reactions amongst Conservative MPs
I did certainly
was
hear
really
mixed
strong.
reactions.
Yeah. Well, the reaction amongst Conservative MPs was very strong indeed, because firstly, they could see, we were all there in the chamber, in the room. They could see that she is really capable. And she took on Keir Starmer, looked him square in the eye, no fear there at all, and did a really good job. So I think that definitely raised her standing and her reputation amongst Conservative MPs, because we need somebody who can sort of go toe-to-toe with the leader of the opposition and do it well. And she really did. And I think it is... Loyalty is often an underrated virtue in politics, and I think it's important that if you've got a duly elected Prime Minister, that you try and get behind them whenever you can and however you can. So I don't think that did her any harm at all. In fact, I think it raised her reputation, improved her standing amongst an awful lot of people.
Well, we did hear from Penny Mordaunt a short while ago when we spoke to her, and you may have heard in that clip there, she says that she's got real-life experience. What are those? What does she stand for?
So the real life experience she's talking about is partly in her upbringing before she ever came to politics. So she ended up being sort of effectively the lead carer in her family when her mother died and her father was very, very ill. So that was something when she was very young that meant that she understands the difficulties of handling a household where there isn't much money and where you've really got to scrabble. But also since then she's worked in 8 different government departments. And the point about it is that as we start to address some of these big issues that I was just talking about, the cost of living problems with both energy and with housing, for example, you need someone who's going to be able to move fast. You've got to have someone who's got that breadth of experience. They need the pattern recognition, the instincts, because you can't spend months and months and months pondering all the different options. We've got to have action this day on these things, and that means we've got to move quickly. And that's why I think it's going to be so important to have someone with her breadth of experience. And I think you'll see a focus not just on economic growth, but also on those supply side reforms, the reforms that sort of rewire our economy, get it moving faster, get the arteries unblocked. Because, again, it's important to make sure that if we get the economic growth, that means that all of us, not just the rich, not just the best off, but everybody needs to be able to benefit from that.
What about those who say she may have been tainted slightly by that allegiance to Liz Truss? Because actually, when the mini-budget came out, and we all saw the ramifications of that, she didn't come out to protest against it, did she? She just sort of stayed silent and towed the party line. Do you think that she should have been more vocal? Do you think that this raises questions about her judgment, for example?
The point about being in the cabinet is that you aren't supposed to talk about what went on in cabinet. You're supposed to make your views known within the cabinet because it's collective responsibility. So again, I don't think it is fair or right to say that cabinet ministers should have been taking to the airwaves, whether or not they made their views clear inside cabinet. You can't then expect them to sort of start sort of jumping up and down in public. They should be making their concerns clear at the time. They should be continuing to make them clear afterwards. And that's the way the cabinet government works. I mean, that's just part of being in the team or not. So I think that's a difficult argument for anybody to make work.
Conservative MP John Penrose, great review time. Thank you.